Hi, my name is Denise Dorman, and I am part of the leadership team at EMCOR Facility Services. EMCOR was founded in 1966 as the Jamaica Water Supply Company. It was renamed EMCOR Group Co. after a bankruptcy filing in 1995. It now has over 100 operating companies and over 400 locations across the company. I am here to represent specifically EMCOR Facility Services, Inc., or EFS, a subsidiary of EMCOR Group. EMCOR has grown significantly in the past 10 years, from a $9 billion company to now over $14.5 billion. EMCOR has also acquired 19 companies since its inception, making them a part of the S&P 500 last month. Each subsidiary works independently of each other. Their business model, from the very top, is decentralized with a very small corporate office in Norwalk, Connecticut. There are 8 dimensions utilized to rate companies before they make the most admired list by Fortune magazine. These 8 dimensions are innovativeness, management quality, social responsibility, quality of products and services, wise use of corporate assets, financial soundness, long-term investment, and people management. This information was found within Fortune magazine. I have identified training and development as the main issue facing EFS. Training and development affects all mid to lower level employees, therefore making it a big problem that needs to be addressed. Several factors have contributed to the breakdown in training and development over the years. The lack of designated resource to train all new employees, the lack of consistency, and the lack of processes documented are just to name a few. All of this relates to the people management dimension of the 8 dimensions. Poor training and development can lead to inconsistencies, mistakes, and poor performance for the company. There are ramifications and consequences when the lack of a sophisticated training and development program exists within EFS. If this issue is not addressed, these consequences will continue to get worse over time. When employees aren't properly trained, they can't perform to the best of their ability. And if they can't perform or do not fully understand their job duties, it affects the jobs they're supposed to be doing. Ultimately, there is customer dissatisfaction that stems from the delayed work completion, causing the business to miss their key performance indicators, or KPIs. If customers are unhappy with the business's performance, it'll bleed into unhappy and disengaged employees. They both affect each other. All of these can cause a loss of customer revenue, which is a further downstream effect. EMCOR Facility Services has a very hierarchical organizational structure. There are several levels of management. All big decisions must funnel up to executive leadership. There's little room to make decisions without having to involve multiple managers. The span of control is about 6 or 7 employees to 1 supervisor or manager, and each department is very specialized and are responsible for a segment of work. The segments don't often cross over to each other, and each position is very structured. Job duties are very specific. This structure is aligned with a bureaucratic structure where there is a formal division of labor, hierarchy, and standardization. The organizational design and culture are affected by the struggling dimension of people management and its main issue of training and development. The organization may perform better in a more divisional structure to improve coordination and allow flexibility when customers call for it. These would benefit the struggling dimension because people could work closer together, sharing knowledge across groups. People can work closer together and build relationships. Sharing knowledge and working with each other to develop their skills would also increase employee morale. Employee morale in turn increases job performance and ultimately customer satisfaction. This also affects the ability for the leader to work closer with each employee to develop their skills. Organizational culture is where shared values and assumptions guide behavior and influence employee perception. An organization's culture can also be reflected in how work gets done or how employees work with each other. The issue of training and development adversely affects the organizational culture because employees don't feel they've been properly trained to do their functional job. In this example, work doesn't get done properly and employees start to disengage. If they weren't taught, why bother? Starts to be an attitude that is adopted. This creates a negative organizational culture. As stated previously, the ramifications can be immense if they're not addressed. EMCOR lists mission first, people always as their values. Mission first is further defined by values of integrity, discipline, and transparency, while people always is defined by values of mutual respect and trust, commitment to safety, and teamwork as mentioned on their website. These values embody the very definition of conscious capitalism. Conscious capitalism is defined by their 4 tenets of higher purpose, stakeholder integration, conscious leadership, and conscious culture and management. EMCOR's values of integrity, transparency, and mutual respect all align with the management tenet of conscious capitalism. A conscious culture values a decentralized structure where collaboration and empowerment are important in the way people are managed. A sense of urgency lies in the turnover of employees. Employees are disengaged, leaving the company in droves. It is important for the business to identify a group of people that can work together as a coalition to drive changes necessary to improve. Next, the coalition will need to form a strategic vision that will guide the team throughout the process. This strategic vision will also help others within the organization understand the initiative and why the need for change. Enlisting an army looks like a marketing campaign rolled out throughout the company to talk about the upcoming changes and why everyone needs to buy in and get on board. The business will need to empower the coalition by removing any barriers that are in place. For example, developing a comprehensive training plan will involve a massive amount of time interviewing departments about their process. This coalition must be free to do so. To keep the team motivated and moving forward, they'll need to see short-term wins like rolling out pieces of program in small phases. This will help the team sustain their momentum and keep them moving towards the finish line. Finally, after the new training program is complete, they can implement it by having all employees go through the training again. With any change, there will be challenges. It's important to identify these quickly and come up with a game plan to address them. The 3 challenges that I have identified are time to train, the time it'll take to retrain, and issues with accountability. The previous training program lasted only 1 week, but it allowed new employees to start working sooner rather than later. New growth forced the organization to bring on employees and train them as quickly as possible. I've discussed the main issue and why it needs to be addressed. To overcome the challenge, we're instituting a 3-week training program for all new hires. This will allow ample time for each employee to gain the knowledge they need to get started. Customers will need to have set expectations and understand that the minimum time to start is 3 weeks. The second challenge is the time it'll take to retrain. Retraining will take current employees away from their work. Implementing a phased approach will combat any issues retraining will cause. And finally, accountability. Implementing a quality control system will ensure accountability. This is an example of Lewin's process model where there was an old way of doing things and now we have a new way. There are several strategies that can be implemented to improve organizational culture. Identifying the gaps or change necessary to improve is first and foremost. This is part of Lewin's change model, and the step is also called unfreezing. Change starts from the top. A big restructuring cannot be successful if the right communication hasn't happened. This step is called the change. Whatever change needs to happen, it must be well thought out and planned with a future goal in mind. People are everything. For most companies, they cannot function without people. People need to be at the heart of their mission. Thank you so much for spending time to listen to my presentation. Do you have any questions?